Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Javad Tehami and these are the headlines. In the United States, broadcasting legend Larry King has died at the age of 87. The TV star had tested positive for the coronavirus earlier this month and was being treated in a hospital in Los Angeles. During his six-decade career, King interviewed many famous political leaders and celebrities. He won multiple accolades, including 2 Peabody Awards and an Emmy. The Afghan government says its forces have killed 27 Taliban fighters in different parts of the country. The Defense Ministry says the Taliban fighters were killed during operations in Kandahar and Uruzgan provinces. This followed the U.S. announcement of reviewing the peace agreement reached with the Taliban last year. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the review would assess the Taliban's ties with terrorist groups. In India, police have clashed with the farmers demonstrating against the controversial farm laws in the central Madhya Pradesh. The police used batons, water cannons and tear gas to disperse the farmers in Bhopal city of the state. Thousands of farmers continue to protest after the 11th round of talks failed to end the deadlock. In Russia, police detain over 1,000 people amid nationwide rallies in support of jailed opposition figure Alexei Navalny. His wife Yulia Navalnaya and a close aide are also among those detained. Navalny was arrested on Sunday as he returned to Moscow for the first time since he was poisoned last year. Russian prosecutors say he violated parole terms of a suspended sentence for embezzlement. US President Joe Biden has warned that the country's COVID-19 death toll can rise to 600,000 before the pandemic ends. Over 413,000 Americans have lost their lives to COVID-19 and more than 24.8 million have tested positive so far. Pakistan has registered over 1,900 new cases and 43 deaths, taking the fatalities to over 11,247. Global COVID-19 infections have surpassed 98 million, claiming more than 2.1 million lives. And in football, Southampton beat Arsenal 1-0 at home to book their place into the next round of the FA Cup. This is the first time Southampton have managed to defeat Arsenal in the competition. Those were the headlines and detailed stories. Right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back, and now with the news in detail. In the United States, broadcasting legend Larry King has died at the age of 87. The TV star was taken to a hospital in Los Angeles earlier this month after testing positive for coronavirus. During his six-decade career, he interviewed many famous political leaders and celebrities.
With his trademark braces, rolled-up sleeves, and easy style of questioning, Larry King was one of the legends of U.S. broadcasting. King's career spanned more than 6 decades and is estimated to have covered more than 50,000 interviews. At its peak, his Larry King live show on CNN was bringing in 1.5 million viewers a night. When the final episode aired in 2010, it was the longest-running show hosted by the same person. His high-profile guests are too numerous to mention, but have included Dr. Martin Luther King, the Dalai Lama, Bill Gates, and Lady Gaga. He won countless awards, including the Peabody Award for Excellence in Broadcasting for both his radio and television shows.
I'm very proud to have been in this business, still in. Going to be doing other things. I can't leave it. I couldn't retire. But having this is certainly, I've gotten some pretty good awards.
He also wrote a column for the USA Today newspaper for over 20 years. The legendary host battled a number of health problems, suffering several heart attacks. King was married 8 times to 7 women and had 5 children.
Moving on, in Russia, police detain over 1,000 people amid nationwide rallies in support of jailed opposition figure Alexei Navalny. His wife, Yulia Navalnaya, and a close aide are also among those detained. At least 40,000 people joined a protest in central Moscow, while rallies also took place in dozens of other cities and towns. They are calling for the immediate release of the Kremlin critic. Navalny was arrested on Sunday as he returned to Moscow for the first time since he was poisoned last year. Russian prosecutors say he violated parole terms of a suspended sentence for embezzlement, charges Navalny denies. In India, police have clashed with the farmers demonstrating against the controversial farm laws in the central Madhya Pradesh. The police used batons, water cannons and tear gas to disperse the farmers. The latest violence comes after the 11th round of talks between the government and the farmers' unions failed to end the stalemate. Tens of thousands of farmers have been camping at Delhi borders since November, demanding the government repeal the laws they say favor big corporates. Nearly 80 farmers have died during the protest. To mount pressure on the government, farmers have planned a big rally on the Republic Day of India. The Supreme Court said it will not stop farmers to hold a rally on the Republic Day. The Afghan government says its forces have killed 27 Taliban fighters in different parts of the country. The Defense Ministry says the Taliban fighters were killed during operations in Kandahar and Uruzgan provinces. The ministry said the fighters were planning to attack the government forces' positions. This followed the US announcement of reviewing the peace agreement reached with the Taliban last year. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the review would assess the Taliban's ties with the terrorist groups. A White House statement quoted Jake Sullivan as saying that Washington will support the Afghan peace process with a robust and regional diplomatic effort. Saudi Arabia says the kingdom is optimistic to have good relations with the new U.S. administration of President Joe Biden. In an interview, Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said Riyadh has always built solid relations with different U.S. administrations. He said the kingdom will continue to negotiate with Washington regarding the Iran nuclear deal. The foreign minister said Gulf allies and Israel should be included in any future talks on Iran's nuclear capabilities. On Yemen, the foreign minister said the two countries have understanding on common issues, including the conflict with Houthis. The Saudi-led Arab coalition has destroyed an apparent missile or a drone launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels. The state media quoted the coalition as saying the hostile target was aimed at Riyadh. The U.S. Embassy in Riyadh has asked Americans to stay alert in case of additional future attacks. The kingdom has come under repeated attacks since 2015 from Yemen's Houthi rebels. The UAE has confirmed to have signed a $23 billion worth arms deal with the U.S. on former President Donald Trump's last full day in office. In a statement, the UAE embassy in Washington said Abu Dhabi will receive up to 50 F-35 fighter jets, 18 armed drones and other defense equipment. It said the letters of the agreement confirm the terms of purchase, including costs, technical specifications and anticipated delivery schedules. It said the latest defense package confirms the UAE-US partnership by enhancing military interoperability to counter evolving regional threats. It added the deal is consistent with the U.S. national defense strategy of enabling partners to take on more responsibility for security in the Middle East. However, the deal can also be reviewed by the Joe Biden's administration, who previously said will re-examine the agreements for the sale. Uganda says its forces have killed 189 al-Shabaab militants during an operation in Somalia. The Ugandan military says the forces under African Union mission raided the terrorist hideouts in Somali capital of Mogadishu. In a statement, the defense forces said the latest assault is the biggest number of Al-Shabaab fighters killed in a day. It said a large number of military hardware and items used by the terrorists were also destroyed. The forces added they also disrupted an Al-Shabaab meeting and injured several terrorists. Al-Shabaab has recently intensified attacks on security forces as the military operations against the group continues. Libyan rivals have agreed on most criteria to select heads of the sovereign positions and the time for their nominations. This comes as the fifth round of political dialogue between the UN-recognized government and the LNA has begun in Morocco. A member of Libyan's Supreme Council said discussions are heading towards positivity and the participants are optimistic to reach the reassuring results. He said the talks between delegations of the two sides will continue today as well. Due to the division in Libya's east and the west, most sovereign institutions have two heads. This came days after Libyan Political Dialogue Forum approved the mechanism for selecting heads of the executive authority. Russia has welcomed the new U.S. administration's political will to extend the New START treaty for the next 5 years. In a press briefing, Russian Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said Moscow undoubtedly supports the treaty's preservation. Peskov said the extension is needed to get a certain time lag to carry out all the necessary negotiations with the U.S. The secretary said everything will depend on the details of the proposal, which is yet to be studied. He stressed it is of great importance to respect each other's concerns and take into account Russia's well-known position on the issue. Yesterday, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said Biden would seek to extend the treaty for 5 years. New START is the last remaining U.S.-Russia treaty on nuclear disarmament, but is set to expire on the 5th of February. In the United States, the retired Army General Lloyd Austin has made history by being sworn in as the country's first black defense secretary. Under a law, Congress prohibits individuals from serving as Secretary of Defense within 7 years of active duty service. However, after approving the waiver, the Senate voted 93-2 to confirm Austin. In his message to the force, Austin said his job as a defense secretary is to establishing sound policy and strategy and assigning clear missions. Austin was the first black general to command an army division and also the first to oversee an entire theater of operations. Earlier, the Senate confirmed Avril Haines as the first woman to lead 18 intelligence agencies as the director of the National Intelligence. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif says Tehran may cooperate with the U.S. on security in the Gulf, but not with Israel. In an interview, Zarif said Iran will not allow any country to interfere in its internal matters. He said Tehran has no problem working with Washington on oil-related issues, but he stressed the U.S. must leave the Persian Gulf as the foreign presence causes insecurity. U.S. President Joe Biden has earlier said Washington will rejoin the 2015 nuclear deal if Iran resumes strict compliance. European powers and the Middle Eastern countries are waiting to see what steps Biden will take to revive the nuclear pact. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's impeachment trial over his role in the deadly Capitol riots will begin next month. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the lower house will deliver the impeachment article to the upper chamber on Monday. Schumer said during the 2 weeks period, House impeachment managers and Trump's defense team will have time to prepare. Speaking in the Senate, the Democrat said the healing and unity will only come if there is truth and accountability. Meanwhile, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's office said he was glad Schumer had agreed to his request for more time. In a statement, the office said the goal has been achieved as this is a win for due process and fairness. Trump's impeachment trial would be the first of a U.S. president no longer in office. U.S. President Joe Biden has discussed migration and bilateral cooperation with his Mexican counterpart, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. In a tweet, President Obrador termed the call pleasant and respectful. The Mexican president said everything indicated that future ties will be good for both the nations. Meanwhile, Mexican Foreign Ministry said López Obrador celebrated the legacy of Mexican migrants in the U.S. during the call. It said the Mexican president reiterated that the best way to manage migration is to promote development in places that fuel the phenomenon. The ministry added López Obrador said Mexico City wants to work with Washington on their broad bilateral agenda. More stories to follow, but right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden has warned that the country's COVID-19 death toll can rise to 600,000 before the pandemic ends. Over 413,000 Americans have lost their lives to COVID-19 and more than 24.8 million have tested positive so far. Global COVID-19 infections have surpassed 98 million, claiming more than 2.1 million lives. More in this report.
World's battle against the COVID-19 pandemic seems to be getting tougher and tougher as the time passes by. The first positive case of the COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa has been confirmed in Panama. In the U.S., around 200 National Guards deployed to Washington have reportedly tested positive for the coronavirus. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported its biggest daily vaccine administration of 1.6 million people. However, more states, including New York, Louisiana, and New Jersey, have claimed they're struggling with the vaccine supply. Meanwhile, researchers in the University of California have sequenced all forms of coronaviruses from natural hosts to develop vaccine for future outbreaks.
Why are we doing this? It's because we want to develop a vaccine that will protect not only for against COVID-19, but also protect from common cold coronavirus and protect from the next outbreak. So we are getting ahead of the game so that if let's see in 2025, 2030, 2035, there is another outbreak, then we will have a preemptive vaccine that is ready to stop that outbreak locally in that region before it spread globally and do the damage that it did today.
In Europe, Belgium and Finland have imposed harsher restrictions to limit the spread of more infectious variants, hovering around their borders. Hospitalization in the UK is 78% higher than during the first peak in April 2019. In France, the total number of infections has surpassed the 3 million mark. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization and Pfizer have signed a deal to provide up to 40 million doses to poorer states through the COVAX facility.
Today, I'm glad to announce that COVAX has signed an agreement with Pfizer-BioNTech for up to 40 million doses of its vaccine. Additionally, pending WHO emergency use listing, we expect almost 150 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine to be available for distribution by COVAX in the first quarter of this year. Together, these announcements mean COVAX could begin delivering doses in February.
Hong Kong has issued temporary stay-at-home orders for 10,000 residents of virus hotspots Kowloon Peninsula. This is the city's first ever lockdown since the outbreak. Universities across China have rolled out travel plans to guard students against COVID-19 risks on their home trips for the winter holiday.
China has asked its pharmaceutical companies to accelerate exports of COVID-19 vaccine to Pakistan. China earlier said it will gift 500,000 doses of the vaccine to Pakistan. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the directions have been issued to the pharma companies. Meanwhile, Pakistan recorded another 43 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, raising the toll to 11,247. Health officials reported 927 new infections over the past 24 hours. The number of cases has risen to nearly 531,000, while over 484,000 have recovered. The health ministry says the number of active infections in the country is just over 35,000. Pakistan Navy is holding 7th multinational maritime exercise Aman next month in Karachi. In this drill, Navy forces from across the world carry out joint operations and share their experiences. According to a naval spokesperson, the forces from over 40 countries will participate in the Aman exercise this year. The drills are being held under the objective of Together for Peace. The spokesperson added the exercise aims to strengthen maritime cooperation and secure global maritime peace. Renowned Pakistani mountaineer Samina Baig is set to attempt K2 summit in the upcoming summer season. The Special Communications Organization is sponsoring Baig's expedition. In the signing ceremony, Baig thanked her sponsor and said, "Together they will achieve the unimaginable." Her expedition is aimed at raising awareness on global warming, climate change and women empowerment. The team led by Baig will begin their track to K2 base camp from Skardu in May. Baig became the first Pakistani and Muslim woman to climb the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, at the age of 21. She will be the first Muslim woman to make history if she climbs the second highest peak of the world. In Chile, hundreds of anti-government protesters hit the streets of the capital Santiago, calling for an end to inequality. Police in riot gear used water cannon and tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. The Latin American country has seen protests against stark inequality for over a year now. Protesters have been calling for reforms to existing pension, healthcare and education systems. Chileans voted in favor of a new charter to replace the country's Pinochet-era constitution in late last October. Australian Prime Minister says his government is in no rush to sign up to a target of net zero carbon emission by 2050. In an interview, Prime Minister Scott Morrison refused to take a new emission reduction target to a key UN climate conference. He said the timeline to commit to the target depends on the production and storage cost of hydrogen, steel and aluminium. Morrison added everyone wants to achieve the net zero target, but it cannot be done by just having some commitments. The Prime Minister said it is not about the politics anymore. It is about assessment based on the technologies. Saudi Arabia has opened its first drive-in movie theater in the capital city of Riyadh. This is a unique entertainment experience for the moviegoers amid strict measures against the pandemic. More in this report.
A homegrown chain, MUVI Cinemas, has opened up a pop-up movie theater in Riyadh. The facility has started featuring 3 showings per day. The movie theater can accommodate up to 150 cars while maintaining social distancing. Some moviegoers have described the experience as exceptional and enjoyable, especially in Riyadh winter.
بصراحة تجربة سينما السيارات تجربة رائعة.
Honestly, the experience of drive-in cinema is a great experience. I never expected that it will be like what I am seeing.
Who would have believed that this will be in Saudi Arabia? And yet, it's happening, thanks God.
Audience members are required to wear face masks. Viewers can buy food and drinks, but they have to take them in cars. The organizers say they have applied all the precautionary measures to ensure a safe environment for the employees and customers.
The most important thing is that we follow the precautionary measures to avoid COVID-19, and this idea is for citizens and residents to watch the movie and stay safe from COVID-19 at the same time.
Drive-in cinemas popped up in other parts of the Middle East since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, with similar venues opening up in Dubai and Beirut early last year. Saudi Arabia has recorded over 365,000 coronavirus cases and more than 6,300 deaths so far.
A rare portrait made by Renaissance artist Sandro Botticelli is set to join the $100 million art club at an auction in New York. The 15th century art piece named Young Man Holding a Medallion is one of only around a dozen of his portraits known to survive today.
Young Man Holding a Roundel was acquired by its present unidentified owner at an auction in 1982 in the United Kingdom. It shows an unknown young man dressed in a simple tunic with the blue sky behind him and holding a roundel or medallion. Sotheby's said the painting is one of the best unparalleled masterpieces by the Renaissance artist.
This transcends other paintings by Botticelli in studio that we've seen that have been on the market. This is a picture that is on a masterpiece level. And so when we were thinking about what the right sort of level and what sort of price is appropriate, we really looked at not other paintings by Botticelli, because there's simply no other parallels in terms of condition, quality, perfection, let's say, and image.
Other notable works being put up to auction include Rembrandt's Abraham and the Angels. Sotheby's is expecting the piece to get $20 million to $30 million.
The other thing that I like about this picture is just the incredibly strong narrative sense that Rembrandt brings to bear. It's a very, gem-like size, but he uses the full force of composition, of light, dark, drama, brushwork to create this story. And the story itself, as I said, which is an Old Testament one, is a wonderful image and idea.
Also being put to auction is Autumn, a 1616 sculpture by father and son, Pietro Bernini and Gian Lorenzo. Sotheby's estimates the piece will go between $8 million to $12 million. The sales process began on Friday, will continue to the end of the month.
It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.